Today I wanted to diagram out something about total communication, also multimodal communication, different things like that. Lots and lots of the students I meet have difficulty speaking for whatever reason. And the thing that I really worry about as a speech therapist is I really, really don't want that to impact on their language skills. So, all right, let's take a typical child with no difficulty with speech whatsoever, just typically developing. So their parents start speaking to them, and this is their input. And if this is their language tank, they start filling in language, and then they give more advanced language input, and the tank starts filling up. And initially, they can only say a few things. Then over time, they get more input. This tank fills up. Their speech ability to come out comes up and up and up and up. And the reality is speech is a fantastic way to communicate, and it's really effective. It's really wonderful. We all love it, and we're surrounded by it. So this comes in, this comes out. If you're in the deaf community, this could also be sign language. You see more and more sign, you sign more and more. Same exact thing. The problem I see in my clinical practice is I am meeting kids where there's some sort of barrier here that doesn't let that speech output keep creeping up and up. So their families might be putting beautiful language in, and this language tank is filling up, and they're learning more and more words, and they understand more and more grammar. But when it comes to speech, they can only get so much out. For some kids, this might be only a few sounds, maybe it's a few words, maybe it's only 100 words, and they can't really get that much more past because people stop being able to understand it because it's not as clear as it could be. In some cases, the more language you get, this barrier starts creeping up. In some cases, not. And we don't always know what is causing this barrier. In some cases, we can do a lot to remediate this. In some cases, we can't. And it's really hard to know because there's no magic way to look inside. But what we can make sure is we can prevent an artificial blockage of language along with the speech thing. Because we know most people, if they only hear this much spoken output, they will limit their spoken input. They'll assume that the child's not ready for more input. However, if we start modeling some other types of input, like maybe using picture symbols or sign, or for sure the alphabet as much as possible, because that's a really powerful thing, we can get into a situation where perhaps one child, the more input we can put in using speech and sign and pictures and the alphabet, maybe their alphabet skills start showing up here, but their signs here, and maybe with pictures they're here. And then over time, picture starts to get better, and maybe the alphabet gets really great over time. Once they have more and more effective ways, they'll choose the way that works for them. But we have no good way to predict which of these different modalities or which combination will be most effective for a given kid. So I'm not saying that every kid needs to learn all of these different things, but if we are not putting some input in with all of them, there's absolutely no way that they'll learn these, and then we're artificially limiting them to this. And there's some really nice benefits to some of these different options. First of all, with your alphabet, you can say anything. If you can type, you can say anything. You can also mask any sort of physical disability because you can use things like social media and texting, and people might not know that you were in a wheelchair or that you had any sort of physically visible disability. So it can be a real equalizer. Pictures are great because if you put text above them, they're fairly universal and a lot of people will be able to understand you. Signs brilliant because it will increase speech fluency in many cases. Same with pictures. And it's very, very portable, and it's really can have really beautiful timing. I mean, the deaf community uses sign, and it can be completely fluent. On the other hand, of these pluses, there's the minus that it's not universal. It's not universally known. So you'll meet lots of people who won't understand your signs, and also not everybody has the motor skill to make clear signs. So you can also end up having another limitation here if you have a motor disorder where you might have a barrier of how many signs you can do. So the burden is actually on us around a child to make sure that we're modeling lots of these different ways of communicating so that we're not artificially limiting the language development of a child just because their speech might have some sort of temporary or, in some cases, unfortunately, permanent barrier. So when I'm talking about when people see me interacting with kids, I'm often modeling all of these different things and how they could work, because I want to be always filling their language tank a little bit above or a lot above what they're able to express. So if you have any questions about any of that, you can reach me at shannon@inclusive-communication.co.nz or .com. And I hope this was perhaps useful to you. Take care. Thanks.